Welcome back, Jiu-Jitsu nerds. It is Alex Wenling being joined by Matt Scaff, who is on our last live chat, breaking down all the recent news in CJI versus ADCC 2024. And we have our go-to number one fan, the number one social media manager, social media manager of PGF. It is Kai Johnson. So, Matt, I think the new drinking game has to be every time someone says CGI, computer generated imagery, instead of CJI, you just take a shot. I don't think you would survive that being sober and all.
I I have to admit that I do not think I have made that mistake. So I
You
think
haven't said CGI at least once.
maybe once, but I don't think I would lose that. I don't think I would lose that game.
Ariel Hawani made that mistake. I mean, I think some of the grapplers that are actually on the event have made this mistake, but we're just going to have to fight through. I'm really focusing on the CJI, and we have a lot of news to cover. Some of the ones I want to talk about is Big Man Flow entering the chat, Victor Hugo joining that plus 80 kg roster. Not only that, but also being a bit of a spokesperson. We just have a brand new interview with Victor out now, so you guys can check that out. We also have Matthias Denise joining under 80 kg. And then Lucas Barboza, Mason Fowler, so many other announcements that we're going to have to dive into. But first things first, what are your initial thoughts on Victor Hugo joining the over 80 kg? Is he your new favorite?
I mean, he's got to be the favorite because he just beat Nicky Rod in a close match, but Victor Hugo definitely, he definitely edged out Nicky Rod pretty convincingly. And so you'd have to think that he's the favorite, especially with, and I know MMA math and jiu-jitsu math doesn't always work. And most of the time it doesn't, especially when you're talking about guys as skilled as Mason Fowler, Nicky Rod, and Victor Hugo. But it's one of those things where as a fan and like the analysis, like when you're like making analysis for the brackets, well, Nicky Rod just beat Mason Fowler. Victor Hugo just beat Nicky Rod. So I think that makes Victor Hugo the number one seed. But I will say this. Nicky Rod is 2 times ADCC silver medalist. Obviously, last time, 2022, lost to Gordon Ryan. Victor Hugo also lost 8-0 to Gordon Ryan. But Nicky Rod's got a lot of success in these 16-man brackets from doing EBI and obviously getting second at ADCC twice. So I think that kind of favors him. But I look at those two guys as neck and neck, and who's the favorite? I don't know.
And in my interview with Victor, he talked about how he's a no-gi and gi absolute champion in IBJJF, and that winning double golding in ADCC this year would have really done a lot for his legacy. But he's trying to do something bigger than himself and take a stand for the rest of the future generations and fighter equity. So if you were in Victor Hugo's shoes, which way would you have gone?
I know last episode people were like, this guy's a Craig Jones Invitational, like homer, he's super pro Craig Jones Invitational. And look, I've got a lot of great things to say about ADCC. I think Mo's done some great things recently. And I've really liked some of the responses from Mo. There's obviously been some things ADCC has done that I've definitely got to be critical about as well recently. But to me, when you're looking at the future of jiu-jitsu, I still feel like we're in the wild, wild west. Nobody has taken over. And what I mean by that is we don't have an ESPN. We don't have a billion-dollar corporation running something, like running a show, running a media platform. And so when people say that, hey, my legacy and all of this, that's going to change. If a show can routinely pay the athletes more than the other shows, that's where people are going to go, right? And so maybe it's not the Craig Jones Invitational. Maybe Craig Jones is this year, and then maybe next ADCC turn, a new show pops up. And so I just don't see ADCC being the future of the sport unless they keep up with what some of these other promotions are doing. So I think if you have a shot, if you think you truly have a shot at winning one of these $1 million brackets, you have to take a chance on yourself and enter that division.
And we have someone enter in the chat. CJI keeps getting more and more stacked. That is no lie. We've also seen some of the pressure from CJI make some changes within ADCC. I'm not sure where the clip came from, but Mo might have sent a message, or I don't know if it was through an ADCC live chat, that he was going to raise the show money to $2,500 to everyone that competes. So obviously that's not the biggest payout that people can get, but it's still a change. So do you think that would have happened without the pressure of CJI?
So in the past, I feel like the big reward for ADCC, and there was a couple of different ones. Obviously, you know, with the seminars and just getting some brand recognition for your products, whether it's instructionals and stuff like that. But a lot of this stuff was kind of under the table. And one of the big ones was that the sheiks out in Abu Dhabi, these princes, these guys with tons and tons of money, would fly out some of the winners. And some of the pay that you would hear these guys would get for a week of going out there and teaching these guys was astronomical. And so I'm not sure. Maybe ADCC has always kind of paid under the table. Certain athletes, certain stars got more benefits than others. I do like that there's a baseline now, kind of like in the UFC, right? Where like, hey, you're a UFC fighter. Well, you're coming in, your debut guys, your first contract, you're going to be making a certain amount. And you know what that certain amount is. Everybody's getting paid pretty much the exact same across the board.
10-10.
And I like that. And I don't have an issue with certain athletes getting paid more. Like if you bring eyes, if Mica Galvao is going to bring more eyes to the event, he should be paid more. Now, I would like that to be disclosed. And I know certain athletes will be like, why is Mica? If you can move that needle and you can get eyes on you and the event you're in, you deserve to be paid more. But I do think every athlete participating should walk away with something. So I love that.
And one of the things that got put on blast, if you will, is that some of the athletes had to, or all of the athletes last year had to share a room during the biggest tournament of their life. And now Mo has made it, everyone gets their separate room. So it's the little things that make, you know, things more comfortable for the fighters. And I think when you're at that level, you punched your ticket through an ADCC trial or you were invited, I think you deserve to have your own space. So I'm very happy for them on that. And as our homeboy Kai mentioned, I was a little nervous to send this message in the ADCC live chat, but it wasn't really meant to be an aggressive call out or anything. It was just genuine curiosity on why the women are paid half as much as the men for winning their bracket. And then I realized that it's actually 6,000. They have it on their website, the list of prize money. But Fionn mentioned the winner of 2022 ADCC that she received 5. So I'm very interested to see what happened with that transaction there. But it's definitely awesome to know that the ladies are going to be making more this year. And also the absolutes divisions has been matched. It already was matched to the men. So a lot of opportunity with that. And Fionn is the one that really took the stand against all of that. Last time you guessed that her super match was going to be against Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern hasn't dropped out of ADCC yet. And I know Mo has been very adamant, like, if you're going to be dropping out, please let me know ASAP. So do you still think it's Mackenzie Dern that is going to be the matchup for the super fight?
Well, Adam Bradley is a guy that everybody wanted to get in, right? A lot of people felt he won that match in the finals against Michael Pixley. He was not awarded 2 points at the end. And it's funny, there we go, Adam Bradley and Jason Nolf. But yeah, so Adam Bradley was just confirmed for ADCC, and people, every time somebody was being announced, people would be like, why isn't Adam Bradley? Why isn't Adam Bradley the next one, you know, ADCC? Come on, invite this dude. He gets invited a couple days ago. Today announces for the Craig Jones Invitational. So I just, and this is what I tell our guys fighting and doing jiu-jitsu. You have to look out for yourself, right? And so if Mackenzie Dern feels like, you know, ADCC's the best thing for her, then she's going to do ADCC. But I'm sure if Craig, who I just saw is watching right now. I'm sure if Craig sends the right offer over to her, I'm sure that's a match that could easily be made. I mean,
I
that's
don't
the
know if
best, right? Without Mackenzie Dern, or excuse me, without Fiona Davies, like we all know she's the best in that division. So if Mackenzie Dern wants the toughest downs, you're gonna go fight Fiona Davies.
And I'm just going to point out, I don't know if you know the entrepreneur Ty Lopez, but he always has someone running his social media and like responding immediately to things. I think that's the case with Craig Jones. I think this man runs Craig Jones accounts, Mr. Rohit. But I don't know. Maybe it is a real Craig Jones. Do you believe it, Mascap?
I
We need to
believed
send
it
him the
last
link
time.
next time.
I believed it last time. Craig is he's dominating the social media game, and anytime anybody that's talking about him, especially a show that's as big as yours, he's got his eyes on you. He's got his eyes on this show.
Definitely. I mean, we have to keep all the news coming for all the BJJ nerds out there. And we had a lot of interesting news when Craig Jones went on the media run. He hit Morning Combat, Modern Wisdom, which is like, I feel like almost outgrowing Joe Rogan in a way, and really getting a completely different set of eyes. He also obviously went on Joe Rogan Experience and then Ariel Helwani. So I thought one of the more funny things that happened on Ariel Helwani, or no, I think it was Modern Wisdom, was that the moms supporting ADCC are really getting their feathers ruffled and going into Craig's DMs, letting him know that like, hey, ADCC is really prestigious, so you better stop what you're doing because you're messing with my son's claim to fame, the Gordon Ryans, the Gary Tonans. So what do you think about the moms sliding into the DMs of Craig, letting them know
I
a piece
think
of their mind?
anytime you're getting attacked, it shows that you're really making waves and probably doing something that is disrupting the natural flow, right? So prior to this, ADCC, I remember when this happened with IBJJF. So you got to understand, IBJJF was like the only major thing. Like ADCC was kind of big, but IBJJF was the king of jiu-jitsu. As more and more shows like EBI and Metamora started coming out, the IBJJF tried to retaliate. They tried to discredit those shows. We're seeing this now from ADCC and their supporters. Prestige. What is the prestige, of ADCC? We're not talking about hundreds or thousands of years of prestige. We're talking about 20 years. And we're talking about a show that's changed how many people's lives. It definitely has changed some people's lives. We've seen some people. Craig Jones, one of them. I mean, Craig really got a big boost from his performance beating Leandro Lowe. I mean, the day one on ADCC has changed some people's lives. Gordon Ryan, that's what his big coming out. I remember everybody doubted Gordon Ryan until he went and won ADCC. And so it has been a phenomenal platform. But at the same time, I just think some of these people are kidding themselves when they're talking about the history of ADCC. I'm like, I mean, we're talking about 20 years in the history of just humankind. That's not very long.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. Another person that slid into the DMs of Craig Jones that wasn't so happy was Seth Daniels. I'm not super familiar with that guy. Have you met him in person? What kind of energy do you get from him?
So Seth's always been kind of a hothead in the community. And first, let me say, I think Seth did a phenomenal job with Fight to Win. So Fight to Win might be started 9 or 10 years ago, and it was a very, very popular show in the beginning. I remember it was one of those also kind of right there. It was after EBI and Metamoris, but it was one of those shows that was like, hey, we're trying to pay athletes. And so his model was kind of a regional MMA, regional MMA model, where we're going to get regional fighters, these blue and purple belts, to compete on our show, and we're going to make them sell tickets. Now, the main event and co-main event are going to be these big stars. But Seth, he's put on tons and tons of shows. He's paid millions of dollars to athletes. I think he's done a phenomenal job there with the Fight to Win. But Seth's definitely had some outbursts over the years. And his most recent one with Craig Jones was, I mean, it's shocking, And
he edited it.
I get
What
it,
did he say before?
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand, you know, feeling a certain types of way towards your competitor, and especially a guy that, you know, last 5 years you're trying to destroy everything me and my family and my friends have been working for 5 years. I can understand you're not trying to invite that guy to the cookout. But again, I always look at it as a sign of weakness when you've got athletes' moms or just random people messaging you, and then you've got a guy, the guy that's in charge of production, calling you out and sending a death threat. It's a sign of weakness, and I'm not surprised because, again, Seth's kind of always had that personality of, like, I say what I want. He's just kind of one of those macho, one of those people that's going to wear T-shirts that's like, you know, the mat is my ocean and I'm a shark and most people don't know how to swim type of guys, you know. And, again, he's done some great things in the sport. But this was way over the line, and it's just another win to the Craig Jones Invitational.
It definitely is. I was not hip to that one video of him triangle choking. I think it was Brittany Elkin to sleep. How does that even happen?
Being an Uki for some of these guys is, you know, and I've heard multiple people. And look, I love Eddie Bravo. I respect Eddie a ton. I would never volunteer to be one of Eddie's Uki. Now, he's never done anything like that. But, you know, like some of these guys, they go pretty hard in their demonstrations. And I've heard a couple of other instructors that kind of don't let people tap. They're like, we are not, or like, you're not in danger yet. I'll tell you when you're in danger. And I know people that have been hurt being the Uki at these seminars. That one, though, was pretty disgusting, especially at the end with the whole, like, I thought you were just being a pussy type thing. Like, that's just not a good look, especially in 2024. Not a good look.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that I am never the Uki and no one ever chooses me. And if that were the case, I'd immediately tap when I feel the
Never make
slightest.
eye contact. Never make eye contact. Ever.
The only time I've ever been an Uki was my very first jujitsu class, and the teacher asked me to be the Uki. And then I like find out like months later that they normally don't ask the new person. But yeah, it was quite an experience. Luckily, nothing got broken. And now we have Roberto, who's very curious about the entrepreneurial side of Craig Jones. I don't know if you watched that Modern Wisdom episode with the sunglasses and the spoon. We know that Matt Scaff and I wouldn't partake in the sunglass, but it's very convenient. I mean, you do. Oh wait, you don't even drink coffee, so you can't use it for the sugar. I'm whitening my teeth right now, so like I can't drink coffee, so I have no use for it.
Yeah, no, I am a vanilla guy. I am a monk of. So that's what my guys call me. They know it's just like he doesn't drink. Yeah, so I'm. You know, but I'll still go out. I'm still a fun guy to be around. I promise.
Yeah, you still enjoy
no judgment
the vibes.
Either. No judgment. I mean, I'm in part of 10th Planet. You know, like I'm no judgment. This is a no judgment zone.
Well, I hope you come to Vegas for August 16th and 17th. I don't know what the after party, you know, ideas are, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of celebration when, you know, 2 grapplers are walking away with $1 million. So you better be there, Matt. We're expecting it. I don't know where it's going to be, somewhere in Vegas, but it'll probably get pretty crazy. Got me some good barbecue. Damn, Matt, you're the connect. Okay, back to the recent news. Roberto Jimenez, he isn't our most recent addition, but I feel like this one really poked fun at Mo Jassim, because I think on a few ADCC live chats, he mentioned like, oh, Craig Jones, we don't need him in ADCC. I'm replacing him with Roberto Jimenez. So how much do you think Roberto Jimenez leaving for CJI stung in the ADCC eyes?
So when you're trying, I think, to put on a show, you got to build storylines. And obviously Gordon's a major one. He's now doing 2 super fights. At least that's the word. He's trying to, or he's going to face Yuri Samoas, and then they've added the Felipe Pena match. Well, the other star, and I think the other guy that moves the needle, is Nicholas Marigali. And you can see flow, especially with the absence of Gordon. It's been more of like, hey, Marigali's main eventing. We're showing Marigali's rounds. Marigali's, you know, Marigali is, they're trying to make him a star. And now it's not necessarily working. I'm a fan of Marigali. I think his jiu-jitsu is incredible and everything, but there's something about Marigali I feel like that people have always kind of been like turned off by. But anyways, the reason I bring him up is because one of the big storylines was he was calling out Roberto and Victor Hugo. Like those were the two guys. He was like, hey, ADCC, these are the two guys I want. Both guys, a lot of fans, super exciting grapplers, and he was like, I want to face both these guys. He was even asking Mo, put them on my side of the bracket so I can for sure face them. Give me one of them first round. Well, Roberto, who's been asking, hey, I don't want to do trials. I shouldn't have to do trials. Absolute no-gi world champion. I shouldn't have to do that. Invite me. Mo invites him. Marigali calls him out. Literally, less than 24 hours later, drops for the Craig Jones Invitational. And that's how it's been going for ADCC. Now, ADCC, I will say, scored a huge win securing Mica Galvao. If Mica would have went to the Craig Jones Invitational, they would be in trouble. With Mica, a lot of eyes follow. Huge win for them right there. Huge
what was your reaction on that? Did you think he was going to go that route?
So
I don't know if Matt Scaff paused or if it's my Wi-Fi.
Oh, we're still
there.
Going.
You are.
Yeah. So I kind of look at like college basketball where there's certain brands. So if you play AAU for a certain team and it's a Nike team, well, you're probably going to go to a Nike school. I look at it kind of like that. Like if you're a flow guy, so if you're one of the, Michael Pixley's, if you're a Pedigo guy, you're going to do ADCC. If you're a New Wave guy, you're going to do ADCC. I feel like Mica is a flow guy. And so I feel like the odds were that he was going to go to ADCC because I know he is close. I think I've heard that Mo's done some things for Mica Galvao's father, like helped the team out and everything. And so I thought it would be really tough, but at the same time, I didn't know if the $1 million would sway him because he does. I think he would be the favorite if he was in that under 80 kilogram division. And so I was a little bit surprised, but I definitely thought it was more like 60-40, even 70-30 that he'd go to ADCC versus the Craig Jones Invitational.
Any ideas on the Ruto brothers? You think they're staying ADCC?
If I was the Ruto brothers manager, or if I could be both of them, right? But no, if I had their ear and I could make the decision for them, I would send I would probably send Ty Ruto to the Craig Jones Invitational, and then I'd send Cade to ADCC to try and become back-to-back champion. So you have a guy in Cade who's already won the championship, like, hey, let's go and increase your, like go get another ADCC title. Brother, Ty, let's go win $1 million. And then you talk about an after party. You talk about if your brother won $1 million and then you went and won ADC sold again back to back. And so that's what I would tell him. I was like, hey, let's split this up. Mm-hmm. Both in Vegas. Ty. And I feel like Ty's in this weird place where he's undersized at the in the 99 or excuse me in the 88 kilogram division. I think we saw that last time. Maybe he's put on more size. He looked obviously phenomenal against Isaac Michel in that recent match, but I still feel like he's undersized compared to some of those guys. He still is a favorite to win, but I don't think it's a sure thing. Cade, to me, him and Mica are the clear favorites in 77. Why doesn't Ty just go do 80? I think he's a big 80 kilogram guy, really good weight class for him, and he'd be the favorite to win, especially with Mica not in there.
And I remember interviewing Cade and trying to understand why they aren't the same weight class since they're twins. They have similar body types. But apparently in 2019, when Ty was cutting down to 77, he might have been cutting down lower, but basically he had like the same reaction that Paddy Pimblett gets, where he just like blows up, is on the couch, like throwing up. And it just came to the point where he said he's never making that cut again. 80 is different though, obviously. So it's definitely a good option with that $1 million price tag. But we haven't heard anything from yet. So I'm getting very curious. Like the clock is ticking. How late is the latest that we'll get people crossing over?
They've got an interesting contract with the One Championship, and One, I've known a few athletes that have had contracts with One, and they can be really, really difficult to work with. One Championship,
Mm.
and just they really like exclusive contracts. And so I know the Rutolos have a clause in their contract where they can do ADCC and IBJJF, but I don't know if they would extend that to the Craig Jones Invitational. I would assume they could talk to Chaudhry and get that worked out, because it's literally the same. It's basically the same 16-man bracket. They're both 16-man brackets. They're both the exact same weekend. So what's the deal? You know, it's not like, I mean, they were already planning on doing one. But I would say, as of right now, they'll probably do ADCC. I just feel like they're
Interesting.
making tons of money with every time they compete, they're making probably 75 to 100,000 competing for one. And so, yeah, I think money wise, they're probably like, they're some of the guys that do really, really well in this sport. And I think they have lots of sponsors, and yeah, and they're living in Costa Rica. I think they're doing really well for themselves.
Yeah, I did not know that about their contract specifically with One. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, that was Hinata Canuto's problem. And it's one reason he kind of disappeared for a couple of years is because his contract with One, he fought Tommy Langacker, but then he did ADCC. But outside of that, he couldn't do anything. So he'd get all these invites, and it finally ran out, and he was able to do the PGF. And now we've seen him at Bypass Invitational, and it's been amazing. We're going to see him at the Craig Jones Invitational. So super. I mean, Hinato's incredible, but a couple years there, it was like, where's Hinato Canuto? It's like he's stuck in this one contract.
I'm so happy for Hanato.
Mm.
I'm rooting for him. He is a very genuine soul. Him and Raquel teaching at Hybrid Jiu Jitsu, favorite humans ever. Okay, on the El Segundo podcast with Fionn Davis, they mentioned that it's not official who the sponsor is yet or where they're getting the money, but they secured a best sub of the event bonus. We're not 100% sure what it is. I thought I heard 50K. That's at 36 minutes of the El Segundo podcast with Fionn. So what are your thoughts on them putting an extra bonus for whoever gets the sub of the night for CJI?
One of my favorite things about bonuses is not only does it encourage athletes to participate, but it also gets the fans talking. Anytime I just think about UFC 300, you know, you're just wondering who's going to show out that night, who's going to be in the running for those 300K bonuses. Obviously, Max Holloway stole the show and made himself a lot of money.
Oh my
And
God.
really, and you talk about a legacy, just a Hall of Fame career with a stamp put on it. But yeah, when you're talking now, like when an event has this, like, hey, 50K for best sub, after the first day, everyone's going to be talking. It's going to be one of the major talking points for fans. So, hey, who do you think's in the running for that 50K? Is it going to be the guy that makes the big upset and gets a finish that you didn't expect? Or is it going to be the Hinato Canuto with the crazy scissor leg takedown or the flying triangle? Or, you know, I love that. And that's one thing that with the PGF that has made it successful is the engagement with fans. And in past seasons, it was like, hey, you can actually donate to fans in that live super chat. YouTube, you can just donate, and that money's going to go directly. So if you want to donate $1,000 because somebody hit your favorite submission, you can do that. And I just love when promotions give fans ways to just talk about the sport. It gives it a unique way to kind of look and go, hey, let's talk about who the best match of the tournament was, who's the best sub, who was the best newcomer, and all of that stuff. I think that's really good for shows.
Yes, it's definitely a very good way to keep people engaged. Speaking of which, we have 19 people in this live chat right now, so we should have at least 19 likes. Unless you hate us, that's fine too. You can dislike if you want, but make sure you punch and smash that like button so we can get this content out to all the other BJJ nerds out in the world. Another topic that Fionn talked about on the Craig Jones El Segundo podcast was a little bit of favoritism within the industry. Not any particular promotion was named, but what is your thoughts on the professionalism of promoters having a lot of favoritism towards certain athletes or giving certain opportunities to certain athletes?
Yeah, that's super common. And I kind of alluded to it already with just the Nike versus Adidas. Flow Grappling has their guys. They're obviously they're hubs in Austin, and so it makes sense that they do have B team, but particularly New Wave. New Wave is their team. They signed Gordon to a huge deal. Now they've moved on to Marigali since Gordon hasn't been as active. But if Gordon Ryan says, "Hey, I want to main event," we saw it. He's going against Josh Saunders in this upcoming WNO, and so events. First of all, they're going to take care of the athletes that take care of them. And what I mean by that is if you're consistently showing up, putting on good performances, and winning, you're probably going to get invited back. And so any of these promotions I think of, whether it's Polaris, Grapple Fest, Fight Pass Invitational, like Fight Pass Invitational is inviting Nicky Rod to every single event because he's been putting on really good performances.
And promoting.
Exactly. And he just looks the part. So, like, there's just, as an athlete, you need to find your promotion. That's one of the things, especially I tell with MMA fighters on the regional scene, is like you need to find a promotion that backs you and is going to help tell the story of your career. That's going to go out of their way to find you the right opponent. That's going to go out of their way to promote your fight. And it can be really frustrating when you're on the outside, especially if you were in a small city or these Europeans who, somebody like Fionne's like, I know she's, I think she's living in the States now, but she's still on the East Coast. I guarantee if she lived in Austin, Texas, she would have way more flow grappling opportunities. It's just geographically, some people, you just don't get the same opportunities as other people. But as an athlete, you need to latch on to a promotion. You need to find a promotion that's going to make you their champion. And I put the quotes because every promotion has a champion. They're like, you're the Polaris champion. Who's the true world champion? As of right now, has always been ADCC for no gi. But after this year, are people going to be going, well, the true champion, the best female in the world is Fionne. So whoever the Craig Jones Invitational champ, that's the real champion. And same thing with the, under 80. And that's where, like, Mica and them, like, if Mica would have went and then Tyra Tola would have went, whoever won ADCC, that's not the world champion. The world champion would have been under 80. Now there's a lot more discussion because I think both brackets are going to be very, very stacked with, Mica and I'm sure PJ and Dante Leon, those guys will do ADCC. That's a super stacked bracket right there. And then obviously the guys that are in the under 80. So, yeah, as an athlete, I know it can be super frustrating. I've dealt with it with my athletes. We're in Alabama. Not a lot of promotions in Alabama. So getting opportunities for big shows can be really, really tough. But got to latch on to one. Just find one. Do your best, go out there, win, continue to win, and that's your best way to make a name for yourself and make money.
And Matt Scaff is a coach, but he is also someone that can guide you in the right marketing direction. So if you're a fighter in Alabama, he's a good person to align with. John B over here saying Craig and Gabi should get married. Laugh face. I know Craig went on Ariel's show and talked about how he didn't want to disclose the pay that she was getting, but he had to do quite a lot of favors for Gabi, including something that involved knee pads. I don't know where that would be going. I don't even want to imagine what he is talking about specifically. But I am planning on getting an interview with Gabi Garcia to see what her thoughts are on this matchup. But how do you think this goes stylistically?
Craig is one of the most talented grapplers I've ever watched. His ability to, number one, he can play very systematically, which just means he can go in with a system and dismantle a guy, but he also can create. And so there's certain guys, I feel like Mikey, you're kind of watching a robot who's just this Death Star of a death robot who goes out there and just step by step murders you. And you can tell these are things he's drilled probably millions of times. Where Craig has that in his game, but I also love Craig's ability to create and find submissions in the chaos and find whether that flying triangle against Philip Rowe, he can do the unexpected, and especially if you watch his B team footage. I mean, some of the things he hits, it's just on the guys he hits it on. It's like this guy, unbelievable. Craig Jones and Gordon Ryan are the two best grapplers I think I've watched, just, again, whether in the gym or just their ability to make really good dudes look bad. Now, Gabi Garcia is a problem. I've seen her roll with a multitude of really good male black belts, and she gives them problems. I mean, you can go watch her roll with Marcelo Garcia, and I know this was quite a few years ago, but she gave Marcelo problems. And so while I think Craig is the huge favorite, and I'd be shocked if Gabi can beat him, I could see this being more competitive than people imagine, and it'll definitely be a really fun show, and it's definitely one of those freak matchups that I think every card needs. Like, it's just a great matchup to get the people talking, and I am expecting Craig to do something crazy. Like, I'm imagining it's going to, I don't know. I just think Craig's going to do something crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The ways that this can go are really crazy. I'm excited to see the previews and the buildups that they make up for this particular matchup, because I just feel like there's been so much foreplay within Craig and Gabi's back and forth. So it's very, very fun stuff. We do have some more big additions to the CJI roster, including Jason Nolf, an under 80 kg, Adam Bradley, over 80 kg, Tommy Lancaker, under 80 kg, Levy Jones Leary, Max Jimenez, Felipe Andrew, Owen O'Flanagan, and then Matthias Denise going under 80 kg. So that's all in recent news since our last live chat. Is there anyone in particular that you're super excited went the CJI route?
Oh, I couldn't be more excited to see Jason Nolf in there. So Jason Nolf obviously wrestled at Penn State, but recently makes the Olympic team, beats Jordan Burroughs. Like, beating Jordan Burroughs in a wrestling match is insane. The guy, I believe, is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So I love his, like, if you're looking for just really good grappling, just seeing, like, hey, takedowns or into takedowns into chokes and a little bit of grappling breakdowns, check out Jason Nolf's Instagram page. It's tons of gold nuggets. And yeah, him coming off of beating Jordan Burroughs, which obviously anytime an American especially beats anybody, but especially an American beats Jordan Burroughs, it's a huge, huge story. So he's got tons of hype right now surrounding him. And I'm super excited to see how he looks. I have seen him. He competed a long time ago, maybe a Kasai. This was 3 or 4 years ago. And I believe he lost. I can't remember how he lost. It might have been by leg lock. And I think that's a concern for people. But he's been training jiu-jitsu religiously. Like, he trains a lot of jiu-jitsu. I've seen him training with B Team. I know he did a seminar at B Team, and he cross-trains with those guys. I don't know how regularly, but he's definitely trained there. So I'll be really interested to see him, and maybe we get one of his best friends, Bo Nickel. That's
perfect timing.
Me and AH are on the same page here, because that's when I saw Nolf committed. I'm like, oh, that to me, we're probably gonna see Bo Nickel in the over 80.
That's definitely would make things even more interesting. I mean, I just don't have any predictions, because there's been so many shocks within the CJI community. And just something that Craig wanted to address earlier today was, why did you have to do it the same weekend as ADCC? Everyone would have won if you guys would have done it on a different weekend and this and that. But if he did it on a different weekend, no one would really be forced to make a decision, and kind of this movement for fighter equity wouldn't really have the same punch to it. So what are your thoughts on him choosing to make it 16th and 17th? ADCC is 17th and 18th. Do you think that disturbs the business in a negative way, or do you think it was something that needed to happen?
I tell my guys this all the time. As an athlete, you have one career, right? You have one shot at making it, right? When it's over, it's over. There's not 70-year-old division. 70-year-olds are not competing and making millions of dollars, right? You have one. Promoters need athletes. There's usually a huge imbalance between the promoters and the athletes. And I always tell guys, I don't care how nice that promoter is to you. He is not your friend. He is looking out for himself and his show. That is priority number one. And you hear all the time, promoters come into the game, they're starting their new show, and they're going athletes first. The more and more shows go, though, right? Like, you kind of realize, like, hey, this is a business. We got to make business decisions. And so ADCC and Craig Jones Invitational being the same weekend. It is truly like the union has been formed, the athletes have banded together, and they're making a stand. And yes, it would be in a perfect world where everybody was singing Kumbaya around the campfire, it would be a couple months apart, and it'd be like, so now athletes compete in both. Now we could see Mica and Craig Jones Invitational, and we can see Mica and ADCC. But athletes needed to be forced to choose, and how much has come to light about ADCC policies in just in the past couple months? So much, right? We've learned so much about ADCC. We're already seeing changes happen. And while I think changes would have happened maybe next ADCC, but definitely by 2030, they would have been much slower. And ADCC had all the power. It was kind of like when people tried to negotiate and tried to talk about fighter pay, people have posted some of Seth Daniels' comments, right? Like Seth Daniels made that big post after the 2019 championships. Definitely 2022, where he's made a post and was just like, hey, why don't you get together $2 million and pay the athletes? Like, we're the ones putting the event on. It's always like, well, if you think you can do it better, then start your own show. And somebody has done that. And now there's competition. And with that, competition always forces growth. And so I think it was necessary. And while it's definitely caused some animosity, and there's definitely, these two sides that are at war, in the long term, it's only going to make the sport better.
And CJI is being promoted by the Fair Fight Foundation, which is a nonprofit put together by Seth and Craig, which really emphasizes the transparency that they want within how much fighters bring, like in terms of views, how much they're getting paid, and also not having a paywall that hides the event. So it's really making the event viewable for people who might want to sponsor. So I love that angle of it. I remember Mo went on a live chat and basically mentioned that the revenue they made at ADCC 2022 was $300K, and that this year he predicts that they're going to be profitable. So what are your thoughts on ADCC being profitable this year, selling out T-Mobile Arena, and what do you think they're going to be able to do with that money in profit?
It's a huge accomplishment. And while the last two times you guys have heard me kind of bash ADCC a little bit, and I don't want to say bad, I try to call it how I see it. I think Mo has been and done some phenomenal things for the sport. And so while we're all talking about the CJI and obviously the things we've learned about ADCC or just those talking points of whether there needs to be more female divisions, or females get paid less than men, or the athletes aren't getting paid, or they're having to share hotel rooms, yada, 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 right? It's been easy to bash ADCC. But at the same time, ADCC has, I think, done a lot of positives. I think Mo has made some really good, obviously, with just the $2,500 to every athlete. That's something he didn't have to do. Adding another women's division. He had already added another women's division before all of this. Increased the women, made the absolute again for females, and matched the prize money from male to female absolute. And so now selling T-Mobile Arena, one of the most famous arenas in the world, is really showing how much growth ADCC is responsible in the sport. And Mo has done a phenomenal job, and him and as well as Seth Daniels are a major, major part of that. And so that's a huge congratulations to them. I think both events are going to be really successful, and I think everybody's, more excited. Honestly, I think more eyes will be on both events because of the controversy.
Yes, I think so. And I think tickets are going to go live for CJI soon. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Let us know in the comments if you are going to be in Vegas that weekend. I think you'll be running into a lot of us, maybe Matt Scaff. Yeah. We have no official announcements to be made, but make sure you subscribe to this channel, smash that like button, because we're going to have a bunch more interviews, live chats, keeping you guys up to date on everything BJJ nerd related. We also have a whole playlist dedicated to the Craig Jones Invitational, the highest paying grappling tournament in history. It's such an honor to watch Craig really take this on. Like, I remember when we were in the phase of just thinking it was a joke or he's trying to troll, and now he's doing one of the greatest things we've ever seen in jiu-jitsu. So I'm so excited to see everything. Thank you guys all in the live chat. And thank you, Matt Scaff, for really bringing this live chat to life with all the information you brought in. We're going to have you back on soon.
Of course, I'm always available for this show. I love working. I love your interviews and stuff. It's always a pleasure being on this show. I definitely think this, you're particularly are going to be a big a part of one of these shows or a bunch of shows going forward. So huge congrats to you. And I hope and wish you all the best.
I think someone just tried to call me. What did you say?
Oh, I just was saying that I love being on this show. It's always an honor, and I'm always available. And I think you have tons of success coming your way.
Yay! You guys rock. Thank you guys so much for joining. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll see you next time.